These Three Media.
Hi, I'm Antrobus from These Three Media, and this is a pre-recorded introduction to my Ronnie interview that you're about to hear. Now, let's make this very clear. We pre-record a lot of these things. I forgot to do the introduction when I was well. I now have man flu, as you can hear. But anyway, I know you feel for me. I am battling on like a brave little soldier, and I haven't got that. You're about to hear my chat I had with the voice of Zippy and a fantastically talented puppeteer. A puppeteer that we will all remember his creations from our childhood and way before some of our childhoods. Muffin the Mule, Sooty and Sweep and Sue, and obviously Zippy as well. He is the voice of Zippy. He's also a theatre actor in his own right. Ronnie is this week's interviews episode from These Three Media. Listen, I don't know if we're allowed to say this, but I'm going to put a parental advisory on this. So any children watching this, I don't want them to see this bit, but you supply the voice of Zippy, don't you?
I do, yes. Funny enough, I didn't originally. A long time ago when the series first started, way back in 1972. I
thought it was 80s.
There was No, it started in the 70s, believe it or not, but it went on to the 90s. So, I mean, you're all right. I mean, it was still going on quite strong in the 80s. Anyway, now, way back then, there was a voice artist called, well, in fact, he's very famous, is called Peter Hawkins. Now, he did the voices of Bill and Ben, Captain Pugwash, and lots of What's With Mother. They were like a puppet series made for the BBC way back in the very early 50s, actually. Anyway, he was the original voice of Zippy because the puppeteer was a lady. She was called Violet Philpott, and she was a mentor of mine. And she got the job to be the puppeteer. And in fact, I think she made the original Zippy slightly smaller looking than the one that you see and love now. But anyway, she did that. So, and it was the voice, obviously, because Violet was a woman. Anyway, a bit later on, the next voice artist, and that was a man called Roy Skelton. And he was also quite famous because he was a voice of the Daleks, like his friend Peter Hawkins. I think they were mates, so I think that's how Roy got involved. But when Roy started, or a little bit later, after he'd started, they also brought George, the puppeteer, not the puppeteer, I beg your pardon, the puppet that was going to be Zippy's foil and playmate. So George the Pink Hippo was there. And of course, Roy voiced George as well. So he voiced George and Zippy. And exactly till Roy died that I took over doing the voice and doing the puppet of Zippy. I started in 1973, I think it was, trying to remember the year because it's a long time ago, and I continue doing Zippy now.
Does it hurt your voice?
There we are.
To do that? Does it hurt your voice?
No, because it doesn't. Funny enough, because it's at the front of your voice. I'm not sort of straining back here to do it. So I'm doing it all out. It's all coming from the very, I don't know where it's coming from, but it's very easy because I listened to his voice for so many years. I could do it a little bit, see.
So, I mean, let's deviating a little bit from Rainbow and from Zippy. Do you do impressions anyway? Are you a voice artist that you can adapt your voice to anything?
Well, I'd like. I think I am, but no, actually, I'm basically a full-time puppeteer. I work puppets and of course voice them, and they're all different characters. So I mean, I'll just show you a character of mine as I just happen to have with me. Here is the little dodo. Well, he's not little, he's the dodo bird. He was one of my first puppet characters. Well, hello, I'm the dodo bird. Lovely to see. Oh, that's Darren up there. Yes, very nice. He's above me over there. Yeah, anyway, very nice to see you. I am the oldest bird alive today, you know. My beak doesn't look as that. It's these cameras. If I come back a bit, there you are. There I use in my lovely pink tail. Anyway, that's me. I'm the dodo. Can I go now? Well, of course you can, but don't turn your back on the audience. Oh, goodbye, ladies and gentlemen. Well, there you go.
You know what? It doesn't matter how old you are. You just love puppets, and I like. There's a there's an American guy who does ventriloquism, and he is he does I think that's politically incorrect these days, but he's very funny. He does the Ahmed the dead terrorist. Have you seen this
Yes,
guy?
I've seen him. He's brilliant, isn't he? Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, I wish I could see him live. I bet he's, even funnier live. But no, it's brilliant. I'll show you another character. This is my beaver puppet.
Oh, hi there, I'm Beaver. Oh, lovely to see you. Ooh.
Oh,
Who's that?
Who's that? Well, he's called Daryl, and he's not Daryl. I beg your pardon. It's called Darren, and he's very nice.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I hear you're very nice, Darren.
I am very nice, and you seem very cuddly, actually.
I am indeed. Thank you very much. I gotta go now. Ooh.
Oh, they've all got to go. I don't know why. I think they're a bit shy today for some silly reason. But anyway, there you are. That's another type of, character, voice, whatever. So yeah, every puppet I have, they don't all speak, funny enough. I mean, I've been very lucky. I've been working with, I worked with the wonderful Harry Corbett. Again in the 70s. I'm sorry, it's all 70s, it seems like to me. But anyway, and he's a very famous little character.
So did you operate Sooty then?
Yeah, I operated Sooty, Sweep and Sue and some of the other characters when Harry wasn't sort of, he wanted to be free props around himself and be himself. And so I did that. But mostly Harry worked Sooty and I did Sweep and I did Sue occasionally as well. So that's the Sooty that everyone knows and loves. Anyway, Sooty, you're going to go now. Oh, sorry. You only whisper. Oh, I think he knows that. He hasn't waved at you. Oh,
sorry, yes, Sooty.
Sorry, you have to do these things.
Sooty, you have a tendency to be quite cross with people, and you throw things around, don't you?
Yes. Well, anyway, so what was that? Oh, you do, but you won't today. Oh, good. I'll tell you what, have you got your magic wand? So hold on a minute. Oh, he's got his magic wand. Easy whizzy, let's get busy. Well, I'll take it. Yes, what? Oh, you've magicked up Sweep. Oh, wonderful. Could you go and get him for me? Lovely. Oh, he's going to get Sweep. My goodness gracious. I didn't know Sweep was going to be here as well. Let's have a quick look.
I am being treated well today. All these celebrities.
Yes. Well, oh, there you are, Sweep. Well, off you go. You're going to say hello to Darren. That's right. Say hello to Darren. Where's your sausage? What was you? Did you say where the sausages? No, the sausages aren't here at the moment. No, this is a break from your feeding at the moment. Anyway, there he is. That's Sweep for you.
Hello, Sweep.
Oh, yeah, lovely. Anyway, so what it? No, Sweep. So what? Oh, God, you go. Sorry. Oh, anyway, there you are. There's a few.
Oh, fantastic.
A few of the characters for you.
So you must enjoy doing children's TV programs and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. Did you not want to do a little bit of a, dare I say, grown-up TV? Did you want to ever go into that kind of neck of the woods?
Well, I was so happy to be asked to go on Rainbow. I mean, literally, I got a friend who phoned me up who was actually working on the program because the original puppeteer had hurt her back and he took over, and then he couldn't do it because he was working on other programs as well. He's also a brilliant maker. I'm not a maker of puppets at all. Anyway, and he rang me up and said, look, the producer wants to get, another puppeteer because we need, can you take over from me? And I thought, yes, of course I can. And at that time I was doing a lot of theatre, working at a wonderful little theatre called the Little Angel Theatre, which is where I trained when I was a kid as well. And anyway, I joined Rainbow, as I say, in 1973, and it was wonderful. I was very happy. It was actually full-time, more or less. I mean, it was, I think the first series I worked was six weeks of that year, and then we didn't have retainers, so I didn't know whether I was going to be back. But anyway, sure enough, after a break, we came back again. But I was very content doing children's work. I mean, I have done other puppetry, which has been more adult. We did, with the Little Angel Theatre, I tend to work with companies that has, to do adult work. I don't do stuff on my own for that. But what did I do? I think it was again. This is even going back before the 70s. In the 60s, we did a show called The Soldier's Tale, which was by the famous composer Igor Stravinsky, and it was a soldier coming back from war and being confronted with the devil, and the devil takes his soul away from him, and basically the soldier is completely lost, obviously without his soul, but he falls in love with a princess. The princess, he marries the princess. But the princess says, look, you're lovely, but can't we go off and see the world together or whatever? And when he goes off to see the world, the devil is waiting and captures him and takes him down into hell. I mean, it's quite serious and scary and all the rest of it, but wonderful puppets. We did this at the Queen Elizabeth Hall in London, and we had Daniel Barenboim conducting the English Chamber Orchestra. We had a famous guy called Michael Flanders. He was famous for being in a dual act called Flanders and Swan, and they did funny English songs and stuff. Anyway, he was narrator, and there was about 10 puppeteers working these quite large puppets, actually. And it was quite an event, actually, for puppetry, in a sense, because it was one of the first adult pieces, and the press wrote, I mean, we had wonderful notices, and this is even before we have the Wonderful Warhorse, which was obviously been amazingly well, in a way that's a family show, funnily enough. I mean, adults obviously go to it and love it, but the Stravinsky Soldier's Tale was definitely an adult piece. But anyway, puppets for everyone, and if I get a chance to work in an adult show, I certainly do that. But I don't tend to do my own shows for adults, although saying that, in the last few years, I've been working in old people's homes and showing my puppets and generally doing that, which has been lovely. You don't earn a great deal of money, but it's actually a great pleasure to see the people's faces. And I do a sort of thing like I'm doing now, although it's live, and I have a bag full of comes a puppet from their hand, and then, and they see it. I used to work one of the very first television puppet icons, which was Muffin the Mule. And
wow,
Muffin
yeah.
That's really old. I mean, that started in 1946 and went on till 1955. And there was a lady playing a piano. She was called Annette Mills. And her brother was the famous actor John Mills. And he was the father of Haley Mills and Juliet Mills and all the famous Mills family. Anyway, she sadly died in 1955, but Muffin carried on. And I had the opportunity in the 60s to work with a puppet company that owned Muffin. That was the Hogarth Puppets. And I did their touring caravan show during in the summer holidays. There was 3 shows a day in 3 different parks all over London. And that was fantastic. I did that in 1964. I was very young.
That was the year my mum and dad got married.
There you are. You weren't even thought about. But anyway, no. Anyway, I also did it in 1965. But I've kept in touch with the family, and I do borrow the original Muffin every now and again to do performances. Well, not so much performances, but to show him off certainly to the old folks' homes, and that's fantastic. They love it, and I've had some wonderful reactions with that. But yeah, I do talks like I'm doing now. I do all sorts of demonstrations. I teach, so I do work with adults quite a lot nowadays. But show-wise, it tends to be family shows. Sorry, I interrupt.
No, it's okay. The internet is a little bit slow and it's a little bit dodgy at the moment, so we're going to we'll go with it and keep going.
Okay.
Because there's going to be an audio version of this interview anyway.
Right.
Just going back to Zippy, because you've done a book. We're going to talk about the book next anyway. But first of all, I didn't realize, but when you logged on to this Zoom chat with me, you had a bigger Zippy with you, didn't you?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So I take
in fact, he was the Zip. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, it's fine.
He's the Zippy that we used in the actual program. Now, the one you saw, the little one that, in fact, I was working at the very beginning, also was used in the program. But I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll move out slightly, and here is the Zippy that you all know and love.
Did you actually get inside Zippy to operate him then?
No, I actually put my hand inside him, worked the mouth like that, and then my other hand was Zippy's arm. And I used to work, people used to say, oh, are you left-handed? And I said, no, I'm right-handed. But sometimes Zippy had to do drawings or write something. And if I did it with my left hand, particularly using a television monitor to see, would have been murder. It was bad enough doing it with my right hand, looking at a television monitor. Just to let you know, Zippy was operated on, I was sitting down on a little seat, a little trolley, very, very low, sort of under the table. And I was looking at a television monitor of the picture that you all saw at home with Zippy, if it was Zippy on his own. And I would work the puppet and make sure his eyes were looking correct into the screen and see if, are you looking properly now, Zippy? I think that's better. Do you see what I mean? Anyway, there is. He's on his own there. This is very unusual for Zippy, as you can tell. But anyway, I prefer it that way if I'm doing the talking. Anyway, sorry, Zippy. But that's how we did it, and that's him. He's like a rugby ball size. Yeah. And he's got a lovely body, and all the rest of it goes down. And the body comes to about here on my head when I'm sitting on the low seat under the table. And so I can see the monitor, and I can see what's going on. And obviously, George is in the same boat as me. He's another puppeteer, and he's next to me usually, or whatever. And we operate the puppets that way.
Fantastic. Now, when it comes to Rainbow, the TV series, I introduced the TV series on YouTube to my 3-year-old daughter, and she's laughing, she's giggling, she loves it. But there is, I don't know if you're aware of this, maybe you were there at the time, there is a grown-up version of Rainbow, isn't there?
There is indeed, and I'll tell you all about it, because you're not the only person to ask me about that grown-up version. No, the thing is, basically, way back, and I hate to tell you, in 1976, there was a competition that the television companies, that's the BBC and the ITV, used to have an internal competition for all the sort of bloopers and all the things that went wrong. And, if you had a newsreader that swore or something by mistake, they'd sometimes record that and keep it. This is the VTR people, the videotape recording people up in, I always call it up in there somewhere, up in the offices somewhere. Anyway, and rather than us, I mean, obviously there was stuff that would go on in the studio, but we thought rather than have a real live blooper being recorded, we would do a program which looked like a real program, and we thought that would be funnier. So one lunch hour, this is the cast, all got together, and we sort of wrote this silly famous Rainbow sequence, and it was only about 3 minutes, believe it or not. And people always think that it was we had the singers in Rainbow, Rod, Jane, and Freddie. Well, in fact, it was done before Freddie joined. Freddie joined in 1980, and the other singer that was there was Roger Walker. Anyway, that's just a bit of nonsense information. But anyway, so the way we recorded the programs, on a Wednesday, we recorded 2 programs, and that was from about 9 a.m. till about 7:30 at night. So it took quite a lot of time. That's camera rehearsal and generally getting everything ready, and costume and makeup and all the rest of it. But on Thursday, we only recorded 1. And if there was any problems with the Wednesday shows, we would go back and edit, they not so much edit, but, do stuff for them as well. But so there was always a little bit of time on Thursday. So after one of the Thursday I nearly said performances. Well, it is a performance, really. But anyway, recordings, we had time left over, and the camera crew were quite happy to stay and do this little 3-minute piece. And basically, it started off with Zippy saying, 1 skid, 2 skid, 3 skid, 4. Oh, George! Oh, yes, I know we got a little one, and all this. One remembers all the stuff, and Jane playing with her knockers, and Jeffrey playing with his balls, and I mean, it was all what I would call schoolboy humor, innuendo, all that sort of stuff. And of course, we did it for the internally. It was, as I say, way back then, and it went up, and there was all the BBC stuff and the ITV stuff. And believe it or not, we actually won it. We won the competition. We actually got a letter, I think, back from, I don't know who it was from, but somebody from Thames Television saying, congratulations, your blooper tape has won. Anyway, that was that. And then, of course, years later, again, probably in, I'm trying to think what year it was, but when Channel 4 started, and then they did late night shows, and somebody found a tape, I assume it was a VHS tape or something, of that particular, episode, and gave it to Channel 4. And Channel 4 put it out very late at night. And it was like, oh, wow. And it was quite, people talked about it. I think it even got a little tiny bit of press coverage, naughty rainbows or something like this. Anyway, it was old news by 2 days later. So that was that. And nobody seemed to mind too much. But then when YouTube started, and I can't remember when that started, somebody put the the same footage out, and it's been absolutely I mean, it's just taken off. It's got what do they call it when it's gone viral? Viral, that's right. And so really the funny thing about that is the company that own Rainbow, because I don't own it, I'm just a puppeteer on the show. I think they were Fremantle Media, used to take it off because they thought it was wrong for their brand to have this rather rude rainbow. But, as soon as they took it off, it was put back on again because people just put it on. Yeah. But I think nowadays they're all happy about it all now. It isn't such a worry. And I think you can find it. You can find all sorts of bloopers and stuff like that.
Before my daughter watches any of the episodes, I do have to listen to the first few lines to make sure it's not that one.
Oh, you'll be all right. It doesn't. Oh, I actually did have the credit. I think we had the opening.
It's got the
book opening and everything, didn't we? We did it as per. As it would be a normal rainbow, only some of the words were a little bit different and the actions possibly. But no, it's funny. That is, loads of people ask me, about that, but there you are. That's the story of it, really. Quite simple. And I mean, it's quite fun, really, that that it took off so well. And I mean, it's quite harmless. In fact, I think your daughter watching it would probably think it was a normal rainbow. She probably wouldn't understand what.
No, I think it's as you get older, and then you hear those terms.
Once you're a certain age, you love it. Yeah, I mean, that's it. But obviously, it's the grown-ups that like that particular one.
Tell me about the book, Ronnie.
Right. Well, as it happens, I have a copy of it right here. Sorry, Zippy, I'm masking you. And well, that all started with two people. I was, again, working at the Little Angel Theatre, the Puppet Theatre in Islington. And this couple turned up and they said, oh, can we talk to you after the show? And I thought, yes, okay. And they said, look, we would love to write your autobiography, but we'd like to include, obviously, the work that you did with Zippy on Rainbow. And I said, well, of course, that's lovely. And they thought of the title Zippy and Me. And basically, I suddenly thought, oh, great, okay. And so what we did was, you can tell I chat on for hours. And I was telling them all the sort of anecdotes about how I started and generally, what I'm up to nowadays and blah, blah, blah. And so they wrote it all down. They then went to various publishers. Some publishers said, well, he's not famous enough, to be printed. I mean, he's not sort of, I don't know, I can't think of anybody really famous, but, he's not Michael Caine or somebody. Who's Ronnie LeDrew anyway? Anyway, I didn't mind. That was that. So, but they found one publisher who was called Unbound, and they're basically a crowdfunding publisher. So what happened was the book was, I did a video to try and say, look, I'm writing this book, but if you're interested, we'd like you to, give, I think it was pledge, I think was the word they used, £10 for a copy of the book, and you'll get a copy of the book, but your name will also be printed at the back of the book with as a list, all the pledges that, got the book published. And so that's basically what it was. And after about 18 months, there was enough people to get it all published. And so I think it was in July 19, out came the book, and it's still there. And I've got some lovely pictures. I mean, just to show you, to give you a little sort of, oops. I mean, this is the young boy. Oops, there's the young boy there of me when I was 15. Yes, I know. I started at Little Angel Theatre. That was the company of the Little Angel Theatre. It's John Wright, who was the founder director, standing. There's me at the bottom there. His wife, Lindy, who's still around. Christopher Leith and Joyce Wren there, and Mary Kenny. She was now Mary Edwards. But anyway, and then looking over here, that was the puppet theatre. That's us standing outside, me with the white trousers. And that was the sort of letterbox opening of the then Little Angel Theatre, because it's slightly changed with, and that's me up on the bridge. We used to work marionette string puppets there. And there's, oh, sorry, it's a bit blurry, but that's me in the middle and John Wright with the witch, and I'm holding the prince, and Lindy there is holding the Rapunzel, I think it is. There we used to do these family marionette shows. But I didn't mention Muffin, and I'll just show you quickly some pictures. That's the Hogarth puppets, and that's me holding a dragon. This was way back in 1960. It's a bit fuzzy looking, and that's Jan and Anne. Jan Bustle with the white shirt leaning against the sort of little proscenium arch in the caravan. His wife Anne there, who worked the puppet, and that's a well-known puppeteer in Australia called Richard Bradshaw. He was the other stage manager of the show. And the man leaning on with the white shirt there, and he's holding a sort of black bag, is a man quite famous actually. His name is John Blundell, and he was famous for creating Brains from Thunderbirds. And he made lots of other puppets. And he was a mate that I met. Oh, here we are. This is me with Muffin. Sorry, I knew there was another one I wanted to show you.
Oh,
there
fantastic.
You are. That was backstage when I was a kid with Muffin. There you go. But no, John Blundell was another mentor of mine. He made, as I say, he designed Brains. And I think he's made quite a lot of puppets for Jerry Anderson, Thunderbirds. And I think he made some puppets for, I think his first production he worked on was probably Fireball XL5, and then Stingray, all those wonderful monsters. He made all these wonderful characters. Anyway, so there you go. There was it's been
about you,
an amazing time.
Or is it about you, or is it about you and Zippy? Or does it go into that a bit later on in the book?
Okay, yeah, it's basically about my life, starting at 15 at the Little Angel Theatre, and then wondering after 8 months where I would go on to from there. And I went on to work with other various puppet companies. One of them I've explained, the Hogarth puppets. But then I did my own shows. I then went to work in Birmingham, Midlands Arts Centre, and I did a year there, went back to Little Angel. Then it goes on. I had lots of tours as well abroad with the Little Angel. I'm now what they call an honorary associate of the theatre now, so I'm still involved with the Little Angel. But anyway, we did lots of tours abroad, Europe. We went to Israel, we went to America. So we did lots of things. So there's quite a lot of stuff about that in there, my family life, my wife, my kids, my grandchildren. It's dedicated to my grandchildren. And some of the anecdotes, a lot of anecdotes about the Rainbow team and how we all got on together and how we put the programs together. I mean, there's all pictures there. This is just a few. That's Valerie Heberden, who was a wonderful puppeteer, sadly not living anymore now. And then there's that's Roy Skelton, who I told you about, who was the voice of Zippy and George, sitting in Roy's hole, as we said, because that he had a sort of little soundproof box just aside from the set. And that was that's another puppeteer who went on to play Bungle, Malcolm Lord, and that's those low chairs I was trying to explain. See, with a little trolley, little wheels at the bottom. That was in one of the sets pieces. Oh, and that's Rainbow Days. That was another Zippy and another puppeteer there. And they were continuity pictures and stuff. But there's loads of pictures and there's Sooty and Sweep as well. I'll just quickly show you those, and then I better stop showing pictures from the book, or else people won't. I mean, look, there's more Zippy ones there. You see, there's lots, and there's Jeffrey and I, me fantastic. With young Ronnie, and then there's me when we did the Greatest Children's party, and that was way back, and I can't remember the year, but I think it was in the 70s or something. And there's Zippy and George and me with a Thames t-shirt on. What's all that? Oh, that's me with my own characters in a library, and that's me with Zippy there doing some sort of public demonstration or something or other. I can't remember where that one was, but you see, it's full of stories about Rainbow and about me and my life, and there you go. And it's still available. Yes, you can buy it online.
Yes. If you love children's TV and all the characters that you supplied voices for or movements for, puppets and stuff way back then, go and get that book. That book is superb. I mean, you supplied life to so many iconic characters that I love. So when you said Sooty and Sweep, I'm like, I've got them as well. Oh, wow. So not only do I have Zippy, I also have Sooty and Sweep as well, which is amazing.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, I mean, it's been a great life, really. I mean, as I say, I'm still working. I can't tell you, sadly, but
Okay.
This year, believe it or not, we've had the dreadful, COVID problem and everything. But in January this year, worked from the March last year. It was just all quiet because everything is, for me, is working with the public and being out there doing shows. All stopped because no, all restricted. Anyway, so I thought, oh well. So I was living on my pension, and then suddenly I got this call. Well, actually, I got an email from a chap I'd worked with. I always forget what his title, but I think he's like a production manager to a big film company. And he said, look, you worked with us on the film Beauty and the Beast years ago, a few years ago. We've got this other film coming up. We'd love you to work on that. Would you be interested? Are you free? And I thought I was sort of joking. I looked in my diary, of course, nothing there at all, completely free. So I said, what would be the dates? And I actually spoke to him. And obviously he said, well, the end of January to the sort of middle of April this year. And I thought, oh, how wonderful. So anyway, I've completed this film. I'm signed a DNR, NDA, right. So I can't talk about it. But hopefully by Christmas or by early next year, it'll be out. And it's quite a big company and it'll be publicized. And there's a big name in the show.
Oh, fantastic.
So, it should be great. But yes, exciting. So I've been, very lucky working away. But I mean, that's brilliant to have that sort of work. It comes once in a blue moon. But I mean, I've been lucky enough to have worked with Henson Company, and a few years ago I did Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance. I was an additional puppeteer involved in that wonderful Netflix series, and that was wow. I mean, in fact, we were talking about sort of shows for adults. I think that is really, I mean, kids would love it. It's quite dark stories, but I mean, I know loads of my mates have seen it, and people who are non-puppeteers have watched it and have gone, whoa, it's quite exciting story with all these wonderful Skeksis and the Gelflings and the Podlings, and it's, I mean, a whole world that Jim Henson originally sort of dreamed up with writers and these wonderful puppet designers. Well, the husband and wife team, excuse me, Brian Froud and Wendy Froud, and his son Toby, who was in, funny enough, The Baby. Toby was in the film Labyrinth, which I also worked on all those years ago.
Wow.
So once you're involved with, I think once you're sort of involved with the Hensons, even if you're a small part, like an additional puppeteer, they're very nice. They do remember you. And I was asked to be in, I always get the listings wrong, but I did Muppet Christmas Carol. I did Muppet Treasure Island, and Little Shop of Horrors, the film, which was Frank Oz's direction. That was fantastic. I was one of the vines at the bottom of the plant. It's all about this mysterious plant that grows and takes over the whole of, New York, America, or whatever, and eventually.
Feed me, Seymour. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So, I mean, I loved working on that. That was wonderful. I even got a couple of little close-ups to do in that. Not me, my face, but the puppet I was working. One of the vines dials the phone, the number of Audrey, the heroine, because there's Audrey too as the plant, and she comes into the shop, the florist's shop, and then the plant tries to eat her, and of course Rick Moranis. I always forget his name in the
Mick
the
Moranis,
film,
wasn't it? Yeah,
that's right, Mick Moranis. And he came in, and of course he rescues her, and everything is fine, but except the plants, of course, are still growing in their garden, and they get bigger, and they do. I think in the long version of the film, I think they do sort of eat away in New York, and the Empire State Building goes, and goodness knows what else, all these buildings go, and it's that. But what a fabulous film. I loved that watching, and I still quite enjoy it when I've seen it about 3 or 4 times since, over the years, and it's really, very exciting. But same with Christmas Carol. People tell me it's their favorite Muppet movie because of, the story, it's Scrooge, and it's Michael Caine, who was so nice to work with. And such fun. We didn't see him an awful lot because we were hidden behind doing these extra puppets. Like, for instance, when Scrooge and Kermit were walking down the road, there's a lovely sort of Dickensian street with all the snow, that we were the extra puppeteers doing the puppets, looking out the windows and seeing what was going on. And some of the big musical numbers, we were extra puppets doing that. And the scene I remember in that movie particularly, and it's very short, but obviously it took about half a day or something, or a few hours anyway, to film it. There was Michael Caine who'd turned over a new leaf. I should say Scrooge had turned over a new leaf, and he bought the turkey for the Cratchit family. And he was at the top end of the table. I don't know whether he was actually carving the turkey, but he was sitting there. And the camera was pulling out, and there was all these friends. There was a Cratchit family on one side, and there was lots of Muppet friends or Cratchit friends all sitting. And I was one of the puppeteers working those. And in the breaks from the different shots they were taking of that scene, Michael would sort of look down at us, because we were actually in a pit, and he was on a rostra. And it was about 6 foot high up, because we're all sort of 6 foot standing up with our arms in the air doing the puppets. And he'd look down at us and say, "Oh, you all right, guys?" And then we'd say, yeah, we're fine. And he sweetly said he never looked at the puppeteers. He always looked at the puppets when they were performing, because they were so lifelike. But he used to tell us funny stories, in between takes and stuff, when they were relighting or whatever they were doing. So, I certainly remember that. And the same thing, I have a lovely story about David Bowie, because how wonderful to work on Labyrinth. That was my very first big major film, and again, I was an additional puppeteer, one of the goblins in the back of the window when David Bowie was singing that wonderful "Here's the Babe," and he's chucking the babe up in the air and in the Goblin Hall or Goblin Castle or whatever. And there was a bit where in those days we were allowed to take pictures, and again, I'm just looking in the book. I'll just there you are. There's me. Yes. I was bearded. There's one of the goblins, and there's me sitting on Jareth's throne. That was David Bowie's throne, holding one of the goblins up. But so we were doing these sort of photographs. And films nowadays, you're not allowed to. They usually either take your phones away from you, or they say if you put any, don't take any pictures. You're not allowed to. It's it will spoil it, because there's so many people working on films nowadays that there might be a chance that somebody puts it up on social media before the film is released, and then all that, it's not good for them. Anyway, getting back to David Bowie, one lunchtime we're going click, click, we're saying, "This is me with my puppet," and all this sort of rubbish. Bowie comes walking across on his own, quite cheerfully, and turns around to us and says, "Oh, you all right, guys?" And we, yeah, I could hardly speak. And a friend of mine said, "Yes, we're fine, thank you," or something. And then he just sort of went away, really. But charming, really lovely bloke. And it's so sad in a way that when the documentaries after he'd passed, there was nobody, which is quite interesting, nobody said that he was, had a great big ego and was way over the top or anything like that. They all loved him. We all love his music, but it was him as a personality as well. And he was really a really nice guy. So I was pleased that, that sort of continued even years after him making that film, of course. But there we go. There's some little stories. They're all in the book.
Go get the book. You can get the book from anywhere online that sells books and all that kind of stuff. Right. So it's fantastic.
And once the shops are open, I think some of the bookshops are open. It should be in, in the big ones, Waterstones, and all those big, big bookshops. Or your local bookshop should order it for you.
Thank you for listening, downloading and sharing and subscribing to the interviews series from These Three Media. Keep checking back for more interesting interviews very, very soon. I am now going to go away and get a bowl of hot water and Vicks and steam with a towel over my head to try and clear my nasal passages. Goodbye.
These Three Media.